Are you ready?
All right.
All right. Welcome to Facility Files. My name is Elizabeth Ignatowicz, and today I have...
I'm Jeff Rizzo with EDS.
Welcome.
Is it, I mean, are we okay to be, can I be myself?
Yes,
okay.
yes, please
I didn't
be
even
yourself.
know you started recording, so sorry. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, 43 seconds in.
All right, here we go.
I can edit this down. All right,
But
today...
Keep the good stuff in there, though. I mean, if you're going to make this about the way that the facility managers are, it's got to be good and weird, too. So, okay, here we go. I can't hear it anymore.
Oh, shit. It just died.
Take two.
Do you have batteries?
Is it true? Is it batteries?
Yes,
batteries?
it is batteries.
Double A.
Fuck. It wouldn't be our show without them dying.
What's your emergency?
We need batteries. All right.
Where were we?
Take two. Welcome to Facility Files. I am Elizabeth Ignatowicz, and Jeff Rizzo's checking his phone.
I'm going to turn this off so I don't have to do that. I am Jeff Rizzo with Environmental Diversified Services, EDS.
And what did EDS used to stand for?
Emergency Disaster Services, Environmental Drying Services. It was a number of different companies over the years that it's turned into now Environmental Diversified Services.
It was very confusing when y'all changed your name.
Well,
just the emails. Like,
that's
what am I
true.
typing now?
Right. And I'm sorry I had to do that to everyone. And I was the one that kept the disaster email for the longest because we had the most.
You did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Well, today's podcast, we are talking about planning disaster, emergency planning, what facility managers should be planning for, and more specifically, if you were to call an emergency disaster service or EDS, what do you need to know?
I mean, is there another one out there? I didn't know of another one.
You don't know of another one?
Sorry. Oh, no, that's going down. Where's that going?
It's fine. It's fine. It just is. We're not going to be able to watch ourselves the entire time.
Perfect. Perfect. Then I can be myself.
Yes, now you can just chill.
Yeah,
like it's still recording.
Okay, good.
No,
Disaster. I'm saying it wasn't off topic. It was calling another restoration company.
If you had to call another restoration company,
you shouldn't have to. But if you did, what were we talking? We were talking about
what should a facility manager know? Okay, so I'm going to give an example. One of my sites has water flooding, and I call you. What information do I need to have for you so that you can roll a truck? What do I need to know?
My first question is going to be, where's the water coming from? Is it a roof leak? Is it a roof leak? Is it roof leak? Is it sprinkler head? Is it toilet overflow? Is it coffee maker? There's an umpteen amount of water sources that are in a building these days. Everybody wants automatic coffee. Everybody wants automatic ice. Everybody wants automatic water coming out of a refrigerator. Everybody's drinking out of water bottles. Everybody's drinking out of, filling up ice in their big Stanley cups, right? Everybody, you see the big people with the big Stanley cups. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You gotta get me one of these things.
I know, I need a little clip-on mic.
Yeah, I asked you if I could walk around the room and talk, make me sit here. It's like getting my hair cut with people putting the thing over me and strapping me into a chair, making use of them. It's crazy. Anyway, so what do I want to know? I want to know where the water is coming from so we can determine what's going to be first steps. Second, we're going to want to know an ID, and I'm not looking for, and I say we, anybody that you're calling doesn't need to know exactly how many square feet are impacted or how many offices are impacted. We need to have a general idea of what kind of resources do we need to allocate for you to make the project happen in a.
So you need to know if my space looks like the Titanic, or if it's just one office space has water on the floor, and where the water's coming from.
Yeah. So I mean, if a hurricane hits, right? If we're planning for a hurricane and it's going to come up the East Coast or wherever your property is, Florida, doesn't matter, Alabama, New Orleans, it doesn't matter where. But is it Mother Nature driven? Did a storm microburst hit Charlotte last night, or Raleigh, or Greensboro, wherever? And is the entire building flooded? Do you have warehouse space? Do you have offices with carpet in them? Do you have a medical facility that's got specialized equipment in it? What are we actually looking at? And to have a disaster plan, right? You and I know each other. I have a general idea of what your building is. If you're a new client or someone that we don't have any idea, but we have a pretty good idea of what space you have, right? Whether it's Class A office, whether it's industrial, what is in the space? Just a general broad idea of what it is what we'd be looking for. We're not going to dive into exactly what needs to be done on that initial phone call because we have no idea. Right?
Yeah. So one thing, as I've learned as a facility manager, you've got different categories of water. Can you explain what a category 1 versus 2 versus 3? It's just a general.
So generally speaking, category 1 water would be this, right? A clean, drinkable, potable source of water would be category 1. Now, if I took this and dumped it on the floor, does that mean you're going to drink it?
No.
No, right? So category 1 can instantly go to category 2 just by where it goes.
Okay.
Category 2 would be something like I just said, gray water. If you look at, would you drink water out of the back of the toilet?
No.
That would be gray water, right? Would you drink water that comes out of the drain line of your...
No.
No,
Nothing.
right, nothing. So the categories of water is in my opinion, there are guidelines for it, right? And I'm sorry to hit that.
It's okay.
But there are guidelines for it to offer a recommendation. I know you're going to yell at me and make me talk closer. So here we go. But then you go to sewer water, right? And water coming out of drains. I wouldn't drink that water, category 3. And then black water is truly what black water is, raw sewage. Now, if you had rainwater, right, what would you consider rainwater?
Between a 2 and a 3?
Yeah, in that ballpark. And it's arguable, right? That's the hard part about it. So rainwater 2 or 3. Sprinkler water. What would you consider sprinkler water?
It depends because sometimes that is gross.
But it is gross because one, it's stagnant. It's sitting there. It's not pressurized, and as soon as it lets loose,
it makes such a mess.
In the guideline, if we were to have the guideline here with us, it would say that sprinkler water is category 4 water, nastiest water that you can get.
Yeah,
sewer water. And it is. I mean, genuinely, if you ever had a sprinkler head go off in a building, you get black water, and it's disgusting. It's gross. But I don't know where we were going beyond that.
So what are the recommendations on cleaning up each category? I know you and I have talked that there are recommendations, and you ultimately ask the shareholders or the facility manager what they want to do, but what are the recommendations for cleaning up, let's say, a category 3 versus a 1 and 2?
What's interesting is I'm looking at that class 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think there's only 3 categories of water: clean, gray, and black. Those are the 3. Okay. And that was a class that we obviously have in here, and you can delete all this because it's probably irrelevant. But there's 4 classes of a water loss in 3 categories of water. A class of water damage is, did this dump out onto here? Class 1. Class 2 would be, it left this room. Class 3, it went down. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So classes are different than categories. There's 3 categories of water.
So we're getting confused because we're reading this board.
But that's again, I'm probably not the best to talk about it. I know about it, but I haven't been through one of those training classes in probably 2 years, maybe. But anyway.
I've never been through one of those training classes, so that's
okay. So here's the point of that, right? With classes of water, you as the facility manager, you as the representation of ownership, right? You ask about, or we talked about, carpet and what are recommendations for carpet. My recommendation, if I had a dookie water sitting on carpet, I'm not going to live in that. Yeah. My recommendation would be to take it away. I've had facility managers ask, can it be cleaned? Sure, it can be cleaned. What's the effectiveness of that cleaning going to have, and is it going to is it going to create or have potential health hazards? Is it going to, what are the impacts that it's going to make if we don't clean it?
Yeah.
Or if we don't remove it? Drywall. Drywall is one of the most porous materials in a building that absorbs water. Most water that comes in, it's going to wick up the wall. And if it's dookie water, category 2 water, and I like that word because otherwise I'm going to get bleeped, but
or category 3 water.
Category 3 water, right? Category 3 water is gross. It's disgusting. It's nasty. And the recommendation per the IICRC is to remove category 3 water and remove all porous materials that are impacted by that. The way that we approach it is going to be to put it back on you, the facility manager, because we don't know what impacts are. Yeah, Rizzo comes in and says, we got to remove this whole thing. We got to shut down your building. We got to tear it apart. We're going to take it down. We got to tear out all this wall. We got to tear out all the drywall. We got to take out the carpet. We got to do all these things. We got to, all the tables that are sitting in this water, all got to be thrown away. Holy cow. What do we do? Okay, well, the impacts of that, how much is that going to cost? 1. 2, how long are we going to be shut down so I can't use this room or any room? Or it's in the CEO's office. He's got to sit in here tomorrow. There's meetings. Okay, well, let's get through that. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
what's the business impact?
What's the impact of the business? What's the impact of the building? How long is it going to be shut down? And at the end of the day, my recommendation means nothing if you say, I want to try to dry that. Sure, we can dry it. Okay. So what are the impacts of that? Microbial growth can't happen if something's dry, but there's still that bacteria. There's still, and if you said, okay, this is a clean space, right? Warehouse, customer facing. What are the impacts to the space that we're in what class happened in that building? Does that make sense of what I'm saying?
Yes.
So they're guidelines, they're recommendations, but ultimately it's the facility manager who has to make the final decision. So yeah, we talked a lot about water in classes. I know we talked about the emergency too.
I have a question. Okay. What is your favorite disaster to take care of or emergency call? What are your favorites?
Any and all. What's my favorite? I've been doing this a long time. My favorite, looking back, it used to be any job, right? Because it was always fun to do work, and we always are doing work. But it's the challenging ones. It's the different ones. I like regional events. A couple years ago, was it last Christmas when it got so cold and all the pipes broke? So
or 2 Christmases ago.
Yeah, so those regional events are fun for me.
It's just go, go, go.
I think we did a lot, right? I mean, there's 176 hours in a week. We did not sleep for 120 of those hours.
Yeah.
Right? So 50 hours of sleep over 7 days is not a lot. But that, when we're busy is fun.
Yeah.
The other component of that, the flip side of that, is for the facility managers, right? People love to see us come, they love to see us go, and they don't ever want to see us again because it's always an emergency.
Yeah.
It's always your worst day. It's always
a ton of money.
You're spending a ton of money. I get that, I know we've done blood cleanups and different.
My favorite story.
Okay, yeah.
My favorite story. I called Jeff to clean up some blood. And he goes, emergency, he takes care of it. It's great. Sends me a huge bill. And I said, for what? A little drop of blood? No, it was more, but I just love giving him hell over the cost for a little drop of blood.
I never said it was going to be inexpensive. Everything we do, it costs money. And the reality of it is.
And Jeff's response, I cost what I cost.
I hate
and
saying
you didn't have to touch it. Valid points.
Yeah, okay. Well, I haven't in a while, but I have touched it, and I will touch it again. I'm certain of it. But
well, that was your point to me. Like, you didn't have to touch it, Elizabeth, and I cost what I cost.
Right? Did you? You weren't dressing up in a suit. Do you want to go do that?
I didn't have to go at 10 o'clock at night.
Right. But you ask about what the fun ones are. Those are the fun ones for me. I like challenges. I like our world. We look at what is the emergency for the facility manager today. Yeah, you had blood. Today we're cleaning homeless camps around town, which seem to be coming up more and more and more and more. What's the environmental impact for homeless camps? And those are sad scenarios, right? And I'll tell you, the ones that I don't like are the ones that have emotion tied to them.
Yeah.
If we're talking dollars and cents is easy. There's no emotion with that. I need this done as fast as I can get it done so I don't have business interruption, right? it's the one that have emotion to it. I don't remember the blood story, but we've had blood stories where, multifamily complexes that, murder suicides and
right.
people. There was one that comes back that really touches me, that the guy's life insurance policy was up the day after. He was a cancer survivor. He was a cancer patient, and he took his own life, and we had to go in and clean that up. And I was good cleaning the blood. We were going to protect ourselves, the PPE. Cleaning up blood is not an inexpensive thing because of what the potential hazard of the blood, right? But when you talk about scraping a man's brains off the wall, and you can delete this, but those are the pieces that I don't enjoy, is the emotional piece.
And those stay with you
forever. And genuinely, it's the reason why, we don't do residential work anymore, is because and I say residential, we don't do single family home.
Right.
Because there's so much emotion tied to it.
Yeah.
And I just got emotional about that, right? But I don't understand grandmother's heirlooms real well, right? So everything you do when you go into a home is all emotion.
Yeah.
And then, this is where people live, right? The facility managers are dealing with more and handling more. What's my impact to business? Get me back as quick as possible and take the emotion away. My building's flooded. I need it done right now. Have your disaster plan ready. Know who to call. Know who your electricians are, and go beyond just an emergency service company. What are the impacts to the people that are going to get here?
Yeah.
If we're talking about a Mother Nature and we're talking about snow and ice and cold, and what are the people dealing with when their own homes also needs to go into that plan.
Right.
How's the CEO getting to work today? Don't know. He can't get here. His house is flooded. What impact goes down the line? So it's not just a matter of that emergency service company. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I know you and I have had some fun stories together without naming clients or identifying them. I know, like, you spoke about the winter storm that happened a couple Christmases ago. It froze overnight. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, things started thawing out, and then shit hit the fan and we were all running. I have a newborn baby at home dealing with this all at the same time, calling Jeff saying, I have such and such flooding. Here's pictures. I need you to, and I was very specific with him on what I needed. I needed him to open up a wall. I had water shut off at that point. I needed cleanup. Then I was scheduling the plumbing repairs. Then I needed him to go back and fix it. We actually kind of got into a little spat over it, and I made you go back.
Did we?
Remember, I made you go back, and then you didn't want to pick up the work order, and we had to have an argument about it?
Nashville.
Yes.
Yeah. It got done.
It did.
With. I don't remember the whole thing, but anyway,
there was one minor detail that the guys needed to finish up, so I sent him a warranty ticket, and we had a little argument about it.
I'm still mad about that. Really?
I
completely. You didn't. You must be still holding it because I forgot all about it. Honestly,
it was just really funny. Sophie and I joke about it all the time about how you made her wait to pick up that work order, and then it was late, and then I wouldn't extend it because I was equally being a jerk back and forth. I think we ended up doing it, but
It got us nowhere.
We were both just arguing over nothing.
Over a piece of Cove Base.
It was Cove
Nashville,
Base.
Tennessee. Now you're going to make me bring it back up. Rizzo, can you go to Nashville for some warranty work? I didn't even take that piece of Cove Base off is what it boils down to. Anyway, that Cove Base. Talk about more emergency.
Okay, so we dealt with that.
I've got a story for you. New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Feces is just feces. It's just dookie. It's just a turd, right? It's kind of gross.
Yeah.
Let's talk about smells and odors.
See, I'm not a smell and odor girl, man. Those get me.
So
I can look at it all day long.
Imagine this, okay? And this is the stinkiest smell I've ever smelled in my life. And we've smelled bodies that have been sitting in cars for cooking in, the Charlotte heat and for weeks before they were found, and it stinks. Dead body's death is just a bad smell, and it's a smell that never leaves you. Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans, We did I can't say names, but it was a coffee manufacturer in New Orleans, in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans. And they had, for whatever reason, when the floodwaters came up, there was this big encaged fence for the parking area, and it was a big area, a couple football fields of area.
Okay.
And when the water came up, the water went back down, and the eels, you know what an eel is?
Yeah.
When I say eels, there was 18 inches to 2 feet of eels in this parking lot over the entire area. It was disgusting. And we're in New Orleans in October. Hot, asphalt, and all this stuff was just baking and cooking until we got there. Right?
You're getting me.
And it wasn't bad until we started
moving them.
Mm-hmm. And it will never leave my nose. That's one. The other one happened in New Orleans too, and it was in a mayonnaise plant.
Oh Lord, what happened there?
Here's something. In our world, I don't eat at restaurants. Really, I try not to because I know how gross they are behind there. I don't really like mayonnaise because I know how it's manufactured. And I've seen the big vats down in the bottom of the manufacturing place that was filled with water, just gross, disgusting New Orleans water. Sorry, anybody in New Orleans if you're listening, but that's a dirty town before Katrina and after. And if you put that in there, you certainly can. Because they know, right? Everybody, if you've ever been to New Orleans has got a smell.
Okay, you got to scooch back over.
I'm sorry.
You're scooching out of the frame.
Sorry, yeah. I can't see it anymore, which is good. Mayonnaise. But you won't eat mayonnaise. Coffee, it's luckily that there's certain things that you got to put out of your head because there are some things in life that you got to enjoy. But coffee was one. Mayonnaise is gross. Probably the most nastiest thing is non-dairy coffee creamer.
Really?
Yeah. And the way that it's made, there's always fires in the facilities. And there you go for all the other restoration companies. Go find a non-dairy coffee creamer manufacturer. They have fires in them, but it's disgusting. And when we did this, has been years ago, way back in the late 90s when we did these. When you got done working at the end of the day, that compound of that stuff, that it's just powder and it's flammable. Be a fun trick when you go to a bonfire over the weekend. Put some coffee creamer on there and you'll see a big flame. It's better than gasoline.
I have to do a science experiment with my kids on that.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, but the little pellets that you see inside of that coffee creamer is not it shouldn't be an edible treat. It's probably either cockroaches or rats.
Stop it.
I can't make it up, and I wouldn't make it up. Anyway,
I do know the FDA standards allows so many cricket legs and chocolate and stuff like that, so it doesn't surprise me.
And it was so gross. But that's why I drink black coffee, is because I won't drink non-dairy coffee creamer. Anyway, so
love these stories.
Yeah, then they keep coming. So anyway, we'll go. What else we got to talk? What else? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all I have written down because we're flying by the seat of our pants at this point.
Okay, well,
you keep going.
I can, and if I was walking around in a circle, I would have keep going. But stories, I would say emergencies. What are your emergencies beyond fire, water, wind, mold, hurricanes, tornadoes, all those kind of things?
We talked about earlier, you've got fire watch. Yeah, you could have a fire. And, as a property manager, that was probably one of my biggest disasters that I dealt with was fire, sprinkler heads, the sprinkler system going off, and then dealing with the cleanup, not only from the fire, but all the units surrounding from the sprinkler water. As a facility manager, with the clients that I've had, the most that I've dealt with would be hurricane related or shit related.
As far as disaster planning goes, that's the big stuff that you plan for, right? But a fire pump goes down. How do you get fire watch? How do you get somebody to respond at, 5 o'clock? Nothing in our world happens at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. It's always
after 5.
And the sprinkler guys, I love them to death. But they historically don't say, well, we can't get the parts until Tuesday, and it's Friday afternoon at 5:30. Well, I thought that we were going to be able to get this done. Hey, we need fire watch throughout the weekend. Can you make it happen? Oh, the fire pump's going to be down and we can't get the fire pump because COVID still, the manufacturers still haven't caught up from COVID. It's going to be 10 weeks of fire watch. Yeah, that's the emergency, right? It's beyond, dumpster corral cleanings. How many dumpster corrals in just those disgusting, nasty places within your facilities that, are looming, and that's your emergency for today. High dusting, duct cleaning. It's beyond just fire, water, wind, mold, those kind of services that are out there that you guys have to deal with. And having that right partner, I will go into that having the right partner that you can condense vendors with and all those kind of things, have that in the disaster plan. And we're not going to turn this into a disaster planning thing because that's a whole nother.
But I will say, like, having the right partner, I can speak for just about everybody in Charlotte. Anytime your name gets brought up, everyone loves Rizzo because you're going to answer the phone. I don't know how many times I've called you after 5 and you answer every time. Or I send you a text, what the heck, why aren't you answering my call? And you call me right back. And, not to say that Jeff doesn't have a life or doesn't have a kid to take care of, but he answers the phone and gets it done and keeps you updated. So I will vouch.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's what we do. I mean, I chose this line of work, I guess. And it's how we make a living. And like I said, I mean, I should be sleeping now, because if you set your clock for 4 o'clock, it's going to go off and it's going to ring again with something. And I appreciate you saying that for sure. I genuinely mean that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll answer my phone. Call me.
All the time.
That's what we do.
Except when he forwards it to the office in the mornings, and I'm like, I'm trying to get a hold of you.
Somebody sent me a text the other day about that.
It was me.
Well, you did, but it was somebody else, because she got mad at me. She's like, how do I get a hold of Rizzo? I keep getting a hold of Rosa at the office. And I'm like...
I know, every time I call and they answer, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get a hold of him. And then I'll be like, oh, is his phone forwarded? Yeah.
I try to disconnect. I mean...
Yeah, I'm proud of you for that. Like... I love when you do that. I hate when you do that, but...
It's taken so long to be able to do that, too, because I don't want to fail, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you hear salespeople talk all the time about over promise. Tell me.
Over promise, under deliver.
No, it's the opposite, though. Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
Right. And that's for so long, it's that I never wanted to fail.
Yeah.
I still don't want to fail. And EDS, we can't fail. We have zero opportunity to fail. And part of that is answering our phone and taking that emergency off of your plate. That's our job. What's the solution? How do we keep your inbox low so there's not problems to go back? And I got mad about, let's go back to Nashville. I did get mad about that. And it wasn't that I even got mad about it. It's that I didn't have a solution for it in the moment.
Yeah.
And how was I going to get back to Nashville? That's what I was figuring out in my mind, was to take that off of your plate so you didn't have to deal with it. I didn't care. At the point, it wasn't about whose fault it was. It's how do I get back to Nashville to do it?
Yeah.
And what's the most cost-effective way for all of us to do it? So, one, I can do it under warranty, not have to bill, not have to, whether it was my fault that it didn't go back up or whoever's fault it was, it didn't get put back up and we needed to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it figured out in that moment. But then when it got done, it's done. And again, you brought it back up. I forgot all about it. So it's done.
Sophie and I love talking about that to each other. Hey, you remember that work order that Jeff wouldn't let you pick up? And then it was late.
I so wanted that client to get mad because my SLA wasn't right.
Oh, the fits we've had.
The SLA.
We talked about that on the last first podcast, SLA, service level agreement.
Yeah, that's like the terminologies of corporate lingo, SLAs, KPIs, all of those. And how does your emergency company satisfy your KPIs that you have to deal with?
Answering the phone.
Done. Easy. Call me.
Get to site. Keep me updated.
Plug 704.
If you need to get a hold of Rizzo, email me at hello@facilityfiles, and I'll get you in contact, or find Jeff Rizzo on LinkedIn.
Yeah, what do they do? What do they say in the other podcasts? Because this is my first one. I've never done this, but find the link below. Put it right here.
And on LinkedIn, I will tag Jeff for this episode.
Thank you.
For wrap up, we've told some funny stories, so we don't really need to end with a funny story.
Is there any serious? I mean, you almost had me crying about a dead body.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Emotions.
You're the second guest that I've almost had in tears. It must be something about me.
Well, I do that because of this. Facility managers have a tough job, period,
Yeah.
in what we all do. And I think, for me, I'm going to answer my phone and make it lighthearted because that's the only way I know how.
Yeah. I deflect with humor.
100%. And deflection with humor is a good place to go. Because we deal with, again, what I said before, people love to see us come, they love to see us go, they don't ever want to see us again because it's historically your bad day.
Yeah.
And most of the time, what we're dealing with or what we're doing in your building, y'all have never seen, and it's typically once or twice in a career that you see it.
But you see it day in, day out.
We see it day in and day out. So it's like, okay, how can I project to you that we got it? I gotcha, and be level-headed in that time of need, and only ask a few questions, because the more questions that we ask in that initial phone call tends to get the other side worked up. I don't know, just get here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And communication is key. Like, you keeping people updated makes such a difference. The way that you continue to keep us updated, I think that helps you stand out.
I'd rather play cards with our cards face up instead of face down, because at the end of the day, communication is key. Over communicating, we all answer to someone. Right. I know in what you do, it's, a bunch of third party. Sometimes it's direct to client. We deal with, I keep saying we deal with. I don't like that.
We work with.
Delete that. We deal with a lot, because I think I've said it a few times and now it's starting to catch up in my head. The point is there's an awful lot of parties between facility manager, owner, engineer, your client, whoever you're working for, that the easiest way is to play cards with your cards face up. And again, it's that handling of a problem, right?
Yeah.
When a problem does arise, communication tends to trump everything if everybody knows what's going on.
Right. And that seems to be the theme. Everybody that I've spoken to and interviewed, we all agree. If there's communication, everyone knows what's going on. It keeps all of us calm. It keeps you calm. It keeps our stakeholders and clients in the loop. There's that transparency and trust that's gained with that. And it just overall, always be communicating.
Communication should not be a excuse anymore. I mean, if we go back, if I go back to where we started in the industry, right? And
were you around before emails?
Heck yeah. When I originally started,
did you have a beeper?
I had a pager.
I love that.
And what were those phones? Come in. Hello.
The Sprint?
No, it was
talk to text?
We'll talk to text, but everything we're saying is how we've evolved in business, and communication shouldn't be a thing. Email. But the hardest part about in our world today is the instant gratification.
Yeah.
Right? That everybody wants it now.
Right.
It used to be I had to get a page that would go off 911, I'm so sorry. And I'd read that page, and then I'd have to stop at a payphone, make sure I had a quarter to call whoever was paging me. Oh, you got to get to Concord, to the hospital in Concord as quick as you can. Okay, well, as quick as we can was back then an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 to 3 hours. Now I'm sending a text, and if you don't answer your text message, I'm going to the next person on the list. Anyway, just communicate. And why can't I think of that? Man, I guess I'm getting old. What was the name of that phone?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I was too young. I remember I'm a baby. I remember the Sprint talk to text.
Nextel.
Well, yeah, so Sprint bought Nextel. Yeah. It was like that yellow phone.
Well, there was
it was a talk to text.
I don't remember.
I didn't have one.
Walkie-talkie.
That was before I got a cell phone. My first one was a Nokia.
I had one of those, like the box one. I used to put it in my pocket.
Yeah, we used to call them the theft deterrent phones because no one wanted to steal it, and you could throw it at someone like in an emergency if you needed to get away, and it would actually hurt them and not break.
Now they just carry guns.
Well, I was a runner, so like that
we're not gonna go any. Let's not go
All right, let's wrap it up
All right.
today.
Yeah. No guns. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And my plug for the podcast, if you can rate and review this podcast where you listen to it, it helps us with the rankings. If you like us, please let us know. If you don't like us, please don't let me know. I'm not interested.
I love what you're doing. I had to say, I think, did I say this to you? I'm proud, right? I'm glad that you made it and kicked off and did it and doing it, and you are doing it. So and
just for anyone that doesn't know, I actually pitched this idea to Jeff right when I came back from maternity leave. I've been sitting on it for about a year, and I said, Jeff, let's do this. Be my co-host. And Jeff was like, absolutely not.
I co-host. I don't. But anyway.
And then he said, "Think on that, Elizabeth." And you called me back a year later and said, "Why haven't you started it?" And I said, "Because you told me it was a bad idea. Or at least in my head, that's what I heard."
It wasn't a bad idea. It was a great idea. I love the podcast.
So Jeff said, "Just let's get it done."
Do it.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Push. You're welcome. Thank you. Good job. I love it.
Thanks, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta take a breath. Drink some coffee.
Drink some coffee.
Okay.